All right, Peter. So we've learned a lot so far. Why don't you walk us through exactly it's like to work with you A to Z? And I'm actually going to pull up a flowchart software and then map it out as you go.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay.
All right. So I think you said this starts with a seller contract and a buyer contract.
Correct. Yeah, we ask everybody that submits a request for our funding to have a contract. We call it the A to B between the seller and them.
Okay.
And then they have the secondary contract, the B to C, which is between them and their end buyer. So A to B and B to C. So once you have those two contracts together, then we can get the process started.
Got it. Pow. Okay. And then this is basically buyer, and this is it's backwards, right? Which is why you probably call it A to B and B to C, because it's like when
Correct.
you get to the airport and it's like departing and arriving and it's kind of confusing, right?
Yeah.
So no, I totally get that. So the A to B is you're buying it, and then
Hmm.
the B to C is now you are selling it.
Exactly. Yep.
So I'm just gonna, rather than calling it buyer and seller, I'll just call it buying and selling. That might make it a little bit more clear for everybody. Okay, so we have two contracts. Got it. Now what? How do we get in your world?
So then you just go to the site, or we can always just provide a link for you, and it's going to take you to our homepage, like the landing page.
Yeah.
On the homepage, there's a big blue button that says submit a deal.
Okay, got it.
You click that big blue button,
Yep.
and it will populate a screen, and then it will just ask you questions. It's going to ask you very like straight, direct to the point, your contact info, the subject property address, an estimate amount that you're going to need for funding. We know that amount's probably going to change a little bit if you're covering closing costs for the seller, all that stuff. And then an estimate closing date. Again, in being a wholesaler for the last 9, almost 10 years, closing hundreds and hundreds of deals, we know all this stuff shifts and change. It doesn't have to be exact. Like the address is going to stay the same, right? But the amount that you're going to
That's
need,
about it.
the date it's closing on, like that's all going to move a little bit, and that's totally fine. This just gives us a basis point. Um, and I believe those are the main questions. It'll also ask if you have your closing company, if it's a title company, if it's an attorney, if you have their information, it asks you to put it in there. And then you'll click submit. After you click submit for that, the little pop-up is going to come for the initiation fee. Again, that's part of the admin fee. We just make anybody that submits a deal
Mhm.
start off with that initiation fee. It's super small, $250 initiation fee. And
Right.
then once that is taken care of, you're going to be in our system, and we're going to reach out to you. We'll reach out to you typically within a couple hours, but definitely within the first 24 hours. We're going to send you an intro email that's going to come over pretty quickly. And then someone from the team is actually going to reach out to you and be like, hey, we saw that you submitted a deal. Looking forward to working with you. They're just going to verify everything that you send over. And then the biggest first step, once we have your info, is you introduce us to who's ever handling that closing, because most of our communication is going to be between ourselves and the closing company. They're the ones that we go back and forth with as far as like updates, if there's price changes, if there's date changes. The great thing about that is we're not bugging the crap out of you as a wholesaler, right? Like we're talking to your closing company and letting you go back to focusing on other deals and everything you have to do, because the closing company is going to let us know right away, like, oh, this got pushed, or oh, actually it got moved up a little bit, or oh, some of the prices changed, right? So intro us to that closing company, and then majority of our back and forth throughout the process is going to be with them directly. Obviously, we're always available. You can hop on a call with us, or email us and that sort of thing. We pride ourselves in communication. We know that's a huge piece of the puzzle there. And as we get closer to the closing date, once we have finalized documents and everything, we're going to send you over some stuff to sign off on. And that's just our packet that just confirms everything that you send over to us. the amount that we're going to fund. It'll have our fee written out on there. And it's just you confirming like, yep, this is all correct. Yes, I acknowledge the process, the fee, that sort of thing. And then we have some documents for your closing company, very similar, where they're just acknowledging our process and everything too. And then on the day of closing, we are the very last piece to the puzzle, right? Like us funding the deal is the very last piece. So we will again be in communication with your closing company. They'll let us know that all the closing docs are signed between the A to B, B to C. Like your seller signed, you sign, your in buyer signed. And then once they confirm that your in buyer has put their money in escrow, so they're fully committed, they're not going anywhere. At that point, once we have confirmation that everything's good to go, we'll wire our money directly to the closing company. And then they'll take the funds, they'll close that A to B transaction, record it real quick, and turn around and close that B to C transaction. So once they get our funds, they're really quick. They'll close it, record it, and then close it, record it. Then after that B to C transaction records, they're actually going to disperse all the funds. So they'll send you your profit. They'll send us our original amount that we sent over for the A to B back, and then they'll send us our fee. So everybody gets paid out with that B to C transaction. And then that's it. They'll email us over, confirm, send any final documentation, that sort of thing. But the whole process is as streamlined as possible, just to be super simple, super straightforward. But it all starts with submitting that deal once you have those two contracts. And then from there, we walk you through everything. And at no point in time is there a question of like, what's next or what do I need or anything like that. Like we pretty much handhold completely through. And if anything does pop up, like if it's your first double close or if the title company hasn't done a double closing in a while, like we step in as professionals and as people with experience and can walk anybody through it, answer any questions and help you out. We don't leave you hanging at all.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So we got a little zoomed out here because we grew.
Yep.
I love that. I'm just going to recap real quick. Okay. You confirm or deny. All right.
All right.
Dude, that was awesome. And thank you. And then anyone else who's listening too, now I will just share this before we go into that. And that is that you guys are not any form of TC or transaction coordinator. However, what I like about your involvement and involving you guys is you're going to help sound an alarm to the seller, right? Because now if the deal doesn't closing, everyone loses. And if you guys run into a hiccup, I'm sure you guys are going to reach out to your client, or which is probably my client, right? So it's like also a good way to think about this if using transactional funding is you have someone in this deal hoping it closes. And I think
100%.
that's a really important distinction. Like when you use lead mining, I want to help you close your deals, right? Because we're no
Right.
contracts, no commitments, and customer satisfaction, right? And then when you use transactional funding, you want them to close that deal because that's how your life and your livelihood gets hicked up. And then the client wants them to close that deal. And what I'm sharing here is that you're kind of getting a team by accident, right? And you're
Yeah.
getting a team of support because, hey, we all need this to happen. I need this to happen. I'm going to help you talk to the lead. You need this to happen. You're going to help make sure the deal gets funded. Hey, here's an obstacle. If there's something stopping a deal, not that this comes included or is advertised, but if there's something stopping a deal from getting closed and you've dealt with this before in your experience, you're going to share that with your client just because that's how, like, because we're all pulling this guy over the finish line kind of thing too.
100%.
So
Yeah.
I heard that as well when you're like, hey, I get paid by the closing company. I was like, man, this is a great person to either A, help you make sure, hey, the seller's upset. They saw this. Like, here's what I'd say to them to fix that. Boom. I've been here before, dude. We've got all the experience here. Right.
That's exactly right. Yeah, myself and my coordinator Andrea, she's been with me for 7 years now,
Okay.
and it's that background, that knowledge, that experience to step in. There's quite a few times where again, some of these closing companies they've done a double closing, but it's been years, or they've only done a few, or they're like, yeah, we did it before, but it was more we closed it, and 2 or 3 days later it closed, and you're like, yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. Can we show you how we usually do it? right? And then a majority of the time, they're like, oh, thank you so much for walking us through that. We really appreciate it, right? So bringing that experience to the table. And a lot of investors and wholesalers we work with are early on, right? It might be their first deal. It might be their first 10 deals that they're in, with not a lot of experience, or maybe they're savvy, but they're like, man, I haven't done a double closing in like 3 years. Like, walk me through this again. And we're not set it and forget it. Oh, good luck, figure it out. It's like, no, cool. Like, our whole business model revolves around getting that deal across the finish line. So just like what you were saying, like, we're hands on. We're not going to leave you hanging. We can help you out as much as we can, to the extent of hopping. Every week, we probably hop on 3 or 4 calls with the wholesaler, with the title company or their closing attorney, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. And if there's any questions, in majority of the time after the call, everybody's like, thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. Now we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
So we want that to work for you. Again, when I first started out, if there was something like this, I would have loved it. This tool, a company helping people out, not just with the funding, but with the process and everything involved. So that's what we bring to the table. It's just that experience and that mindset of like, how can we help these wholesalers get this deal closed out in any way, shape, or form, outside of even just providing them with the funding for the double close.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly why, and you guys can begin to see why I wanted to make these videos, because if you supercharge what we do at Lead Mining mixed with a strategy like this, just our levels of customer service, we'll just call it that for lack of a better term, right? But it's like, it's a lot more than that. But I mean, technically it is what customer service looks like in our industry, right? Customer service isn't just making sure you're getting leads. It's making sure you know what to do with the lead when you get it, and then helping you accomplish that. That's my lane that I own. And if you could tell, he's kind of doing the same thing. We are life preservers. So while you're swimming in the ocean, if you need a rest or you need support, we're here. I want to lend my expertise to help you close more deals. Peter wants you closing 5 more deals a month too, right?
Yeah.
It's like both of our business models are strictly determined on your success, which is exactly why I wanted to team up with Peter and make this. No, thank you so much. Because the other video I wanted to make, which we're doing the 2-in-1, is just the levels of support you guys offer, right? So if you'll just clearly outline that real quick. I know you mentioned you have a lead coordinator, or what did you call that goes from with
Yeah,
you?
just a coordinator. She is just when the deals come in, she's the one that works with the wholesaler, works with the closing company, and she's probably got close to 1,000 transactions under her belt across the country, right? Different experience in different markets and that sort of thing. Her name is Andrea. She's the main point of contact.
Got it.
But either one of us will make sure that it gets handled and correctly. And we've pushed some deals to as far as extent as possible. Like, all of them don't close, right? But if it's not going to work out, if it's not going to happen, we want to know and like give that wholesaler assurance, like, hey, we've done everything we could on this, right? Like, it happens. Like, it happens in the industry, it happens in the business.
Right.
Not everything closes, but if you can at least walk away from it and be like, there's no way we could have got that done at all, at least you have that, rather than that icky feeling of like, I wish somebody could have helped me out, or I feel like I left money on the table. I feel like something happened there. I know what that's like on the wholesaling side, right? So one of my goals is to fund and close every deal we can. Realistically, it does, we don't have 100% closing rate just because stuff happens with deals, they fall out, whatever, title issues, but at least gaining some knowledge from it for the next one, and knowing that everything was done to complete that transaction. It just didn't work out.
Right.
So yeah, we bring the experience in the communication to the table too. I'm huge on communication. I don't want to feel like any stone was not unturned or something. People have questions with stuff, and sometimes I push a little bit. My team will push too. Is like, you seem like a little uncertain about something. Like, what's going on? Like, how can we help? What do you think? You can just hear it in somebody's voice. Because it's a newer concept for some people, right? And then once you do a few of them with us, we like to think that that's all you're ever going to do moving forward is double closings. But confidence gives you a tool, and then you can rely on us in our background in dealing with hundreds and hundreds of transactions to help you out as much as possible if something pops up.
Yeah, which is awesome. And I think that's, like I tell my clients, like, I have this rigorous follow-up method where double dial every lead 8 times before you give up. And to the same point is, it's not like the point is to do everything you can to get a hold of the lead, right? And we do everything we can to save every deal that we can. And again, this is the perk of using us. You call me if you don't know what to say left to the lead, and you call you if we don't know what's left to save a deal with our own tool belt. It's like, hey, what other options do we have here? Like you said, we're here to help you cross that finish line, which is super cool and totally why I clicked with Peter. But
Awesome.
guys, rock and roll. So yeah, we're going to get to the next one and it's going to fit perfectly. I will see you soon.